Hi there, it's Nesh here and welcome to my kitchen. I brought you in here today because I wanted to show you a little bit about how kefir is made, or kefir is made, and also just to show you a couple of other different products that you can get, that you can use in your cooking and in your meals to get some really good quality, good bacteria into your system. So we all know the benefits of good bacteria, but oftentimes we don't, outside of a probiotic supplement or Yakult, we don't really know where else to get them from. We're going to make a milk kefir today, and we're actually going to make it in two different ways. But before we go on to that, I just wanted to show you, I've just got some sauerkraut here. So it's what we call a cultured vegetable, and it is jam-packed full of good bacteria, which is really fabulous for your inner digestive system. With this stuff, you don't need a lot of it. I put maybe a couple of teaspoons to a tablespoon max on the side of my plate, but I do try to have it every day. So try to get as much of these products in that you can, but also miso, tempeh, all of those products do include good bacteria. They're all cultured vegetables or a cultured product. But I just find that sauerkraut is just the easiest. It goes with everything. I really love the flavour of it. This little satchel is what we call a powdered culture of kefir. So I'll bring that in so you can have a really good look at it. You can buy that from most health food shops. Now with kefir, it really is quite cheap. It's $10, and inside you get 5 of these satchels. And basically what kefir is it is a drink. It's like a drinking yogurt, but what you do is you're putting bacteria into a milk and leaving it on the kitchen bench for 3 or 4 days. I know it sounds pretty gross. People always complain about that bit. The milk doesn't go off. Basically what happens is the bacteria eats the lactose in the milk, and it produces this really extraordinary probiotic drink and in my circle of friends and my family, it's known as the liquid gold, because it does really make you feel quite different, and it you will notice a substantial difference when you start taking it. But let's take a look at, so I just sort of scrunched that up, and basically all I'm going to do is take the milk and just pour it in. So sometimes I like to use organic milk, but this is just normal full cream milk. I always use the full cream version of it. Okay, and so I'll put about a litre in there. I'm going to push that off to the side now. And basically all you need to do is now a trick about this is knowing when your kefir's ready, and that's, people always sort of go, oh, I'm not sure when it's ready, and how do I know? And the way that you can tell is that if you have a look at this milk, if I swish it around, it's quite liquidy, it's like water, so it sloshes around a decent amount. In 2 or 3 days, the first batch of kefir does take a little bit longer. It is actually ready. You'll go to swish it and it'll be like one big blob of mass, like you won't be able to swish it around at all. And then you will know, just chuck that in the bin, get myself another chopstick. So that's when you know that it actually is ready. And you can actually overdo kefir, both actually. And what will happen is that you'll start to find that rather than it being a milky sort of consistency, it's really, for me, the powdered kefir tastes like buttermilk. It's something that we were given a fair amount as kids. The kefir grains are a lot more potent. This is still a really great quality product. This is a little bit more effort to manage. However, the end product does have a higher concentration of probiotics in it, and you will be able to taste the difference. It's almost a bit alcoholic, almost a bit gassy in its nature because of the fermenting process. You will get that with the kefir grains, but not as much, I must say. So once I've because they do clump up a little bit, so if I could just sort of show it to you, it's literally just a white powder, if you can see that. It's a white powder, just like flour really. So then you just sort of pop them in. Okay, that's all it is. And I don't have a before and after. I wasn't that well prepared. I didn't say, and something we prepared earlier. I actually forgot to do that. But I do have the other kefir to show you. So then with my little wooden chopstick or any plastic spoon, I don't own a lot of plastic spoons. I try and keep away from plastic in my room. So And then we just sort of make sure all the powder's sort of scooped down the side. Give it a little bit of a stir, and then basically push that over to the side of the bench and just leave that there for 3-4 days or however long it takes. I do pop a little lid, just leave it out of direct sunlight. You don't want it to heat up too quickly. So I sort of keep it on the side of the bench where it's not going to get that direct sunlight, or just even in the pantry cupboard. So I've got some really interesting cultures growing in there. So that's that. Now, the beauty of this kefir is that once you make it, you then place it into the fridge, because you want to be able to slow down that process, because that fermentation is still going to be happening, that bacteria is still going to multiply. So really, the longer that you leave it, the better it actually is for you. But what we will do is we always put it in the fridge, and then I'll have half a glass to start with if you've never had it before, and I'll usually have half a glass either as my morning snack, like I'll just put some chia seeds through it. By the time I get to work, the chia have done their magic and it's fermented itself a little bit more, so it's a bit more potent. Or I do really love to have it just before I go to bed. The reason being is because I like that idea of my stomach being quite empty, and it just gets this really good flood of good bacteria, and they can just sort of sit there and multiply and have fun and enjoy themselves in a nice warm environment while I sleep and multiply. The other part of it too, well, the best thing is what I started saying before I got distracted, is that when the kefir is finished, as we drink it, before we get to the end of it, I'll take a cup of it out and just leave it in the fridge. When it's complete, I'll wash my jar, refill it with milk, and then I add that kefir from the last batch and pour it back in. You can continue to recycle the kefir in that way, and I found that it works for sort of up to about 2 to 3 months, depending on how frequently you're making it, and then you'll start to see it starts to lose its creaminess, and you just know that it's not as dense in probiotic culture. So that's when you just grab your second satchel. So really, these 5 satchels last you a decent amount of time. Now, with our kefir grains, I am just going to empty these out. Now, I've just got a little plastic fork that I sometimes use. So I'm going to just pull, and basically what I do is I strain it. Sometimes I use my nut milk bag, which is just muslin, because as I said, I do like to keep away from plastic, but just a plastic sieve. You just sieve that out into another jar that you can just pour from, and then just refill the same jar with the grains. But I did want to show you what they actually look like. And basically with these kefir grains, as I said, the powder kefir takes 3 or 4 days. This one does take like within less than 24 hours. I was actually really shocked at how quickly it happens. And that's why I use the smaller jars. So I pretty much go between these 2 jars, because it's remaking itself every day. That's why I find that the kefir grains, even though it's a more natural product and it can be higher in potency, it does require a little bit more effort than what this does. So if you're starting off, I probably would go for this, but you know, jump in, you're more than welcome to. The way that you can slow the progress down, and something that I've sort of discovered to do, is firstly chuck out some of your grains, because they will multiply. So as you get more and more grains, just chuck them out. So therefore there's less of them working away at your milk. The second thing that I also do, and I've sort of gotten into this routine just the last couple of months, I must say, is that once I've made a couple of batches, or if I just want to slow them down, I'll let it sit on the bench for that day until I know that the product is ready and know that the kefir is ready. And then I just pop it into the fridge. And they don't like the cold, they love warm. Like all bacteria, they multiply in warm environments. So the minute that you pop them into the fridge, they just slow down. And so then I just find that I'll just take my jar and just strain, you know, sort of doing that one straight into my glass and get my half a cup and drink that, and sort of until they're completely finished, and then just pour the next bit in. Both kefirs, you need to always use wooden or plastic or glass. So too, that you really need to remember is that they don't need to be rinsed or washed, and that was the big difference for me. Was I was like, oh, they just look, they've got the old milk on them, but they actually do surround themselves with a coating of the old milk, and it actually does. The longer you have them, the better quality probiotic. It's like they mature, so it's actually better. So don't be too concerned about that. And definitely do not wash them with water. They don't like that at all. And when I say things like they don't like it, they pretty much just die off, or they just stop producing, or it takes them a little while to sort of get started into forming a really quality kefir for you. You know that you've left it for too long with both of them actually, when they actually start to harden up and look like a cottage cheese. If that does happen to your kefir, then you know that you've left it way too long. With the kefir grains, you just actually need to chuck that out and start again. So watch it quite closely the first time that you actually do it. With the kefir grains, if you do happen to do that and it does become quite a thick, almost like cottage cheese effect, first thing I would recommend you do, and this is something I've just noticed by using the kefir grains, it doesn't happen to the kefir powder, but basically what happens is that you've got the grains sort of and the milk separates, and you've got this leftover water, a bit like the yogurt. If you give it a stir and it goes into a milky consistency again, like a bit of a drinking yogurt consistency, then you know you're on the right track and it's all okay. If you still find it's still quite a thick product, then you're just going to have to turf it. So I'm going to just strain this out into a new jar, and it can look quite yucky sometimes. The other product that you can have that I've also recommend people take on is kombucha, again, depending on how you pronounce it. So I'll just take these guys out. I'll take it. They do look like, oh, it's getting a bit messy. They look a bit like, hope that you can see that. I'll look a bit like little cauliflower, and you can see I was given a small batch of grains, and they've filled up now. That I'd like to use this kombucha or kombucha. I will have it a couple of times a week because I just love it so much, and I'm so excited to hear that Nature's Way is bringing out a product that they're going to be stocking in supermarkets, because generally you can only really get it at your local health food shop, and now it's going to be a lot more readily available, which I think is absolutely wonderful. But I do have a couple of products to show you of the kombucha, so let's just have a look at them. Okay, so there's lots of different types. So this is one by Mojo, and it's my favourite flavour. It's raspberry passion. But if you can see down the bottom of it, it actually is quite dusty. So you just give it a bit of a shake. When you open these up, they are actually like a fizzy drink because of the fermentation that's happening and the good bacteria that's still quite actively in there. The only thing with this one is I will have it. My kids love to taste it, but I won't give them much of it because it actually is made with black tea, or a green tea. So it does have caffeine in it. So that's the only difference. With the kefirs, absolutely give it to your kids. My kids really prefer the flavour of this because it's not as strong as this one. Though what I do is I put it through smoothies, and half the time they don't even know that they're having it. Or times where they've been to a party and there's been lots of sugar on, I try and counteract that. Or when they're sick, and there is going to be that digestive upset, I definitely do try and counteract that and give them some kefir of either one, and just say to them, look, just have it, just drink it. I know it's not awesome, but just drink it, and they're pretty happy to do that. So that's your lesson on kefir. If you do have any questions, please feel free to give me a call or email me and let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to see how you go with all this live probiotic. Enjoy.